Mr. Speaker, I'm privileged to be the proud owner of a copy of the former Prime Minister's new book. It's a rare, unsigned copy. Oh, it's hard. I mean, governing is hard, and we inherited a lot of problems, an economy that was broken, NHS on its knees, and we've had to pick that up and deal with it.
The UK economy is on the edge, and Keir Starmer's Labour Party appears powerless to stop the downfall. With inflation rising and businesses struggling under tax pressure, the country is on the verge of a recession. Before we continue, a quick request. If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Thanks for subscribing. Now, back to the discussion. This economic crisis is just the surface. When we look deeper into Starmer's leadership, a pattern of broken promises and flawed policies starts to emerge. The real question is, how much longer can he hold on to his position? Starmer's rise to Labour leadership came with a promise of a fresh start. His background as a lawyer and prosecutor gave hope that he would bring competence and professionalism, which the party desperately needed after years of political instability. Initially, his supporters believed he was the solution to Jeremy Corbyn's divisive leadership, expecting his more cautious approach to make Labour electable again. However, as time passed, the cracks in Starmer's carefully crafted image began to show. Labour members and MPs grew increasingly frustrated with his leadership style. The same traits that once built confidence, his legal expertise and cautious language, now seemed to disconnect him from voters on a personal level. The gap between Starmer's words and actions became more evident. While he talked about unity and representing working-class interests, his policies seemed more focused on middle-class voters and business concerns. This left many traditional Labour supporters feeling abandoned. Starmer's inability to connect with working-class voters showed in key moments. His lackluster response to the cost-of-living crisis, focusing more on economic data than the real struggles of families, left many unimpressed. His refusal to support striking workers, citing concerns about responsibility, distanced him from the trade unions that form Labour's core support. As these missteps piled up, Labour's chances in upcoming elections began to weaken. The party, once a strong advocate for working people, seemed out of touch with their daily struggles. Starmer's managerial style, while effective in a courtroom, lacked the emotional connection needed to rally voters. Recent polls have shown a significant drop in Labour's lead over the Conservatives, and Starmer's personal approval ratings have also declined. Many voters struggle to identify what he truly stands for, beyond vague promises of competence. With another general election looming, Labour's future remains uncertain. Following an election defeat, questions around Starmer's leadership have grown more intense. What started with optimism has now shifted to concerns that his technocratic approach may be Labour's biggest weakness. With the economy in turmoil and voters demanding bold solutions, Starmer's cautious centrism appears increasingly out of touch. But the challenges to his leadership were about to take a dramatic turn when criticism of his political missteps was overshadowed by a scandal from his past that re-emerged, threatening to derail his career altogether. Just as Starmer's critics were calling him overly cautious and uninspiring, he made a surprising move that caught both his supporters and rivals off guard. He boldly vowed to step down if he was fined over the beergate incident. This raised the stakes to an unprecedented level. But was this a clever political move or a risky gamble that could cost Labour dearly? The beergate incident, which at first seemed like a minor issue, suddenly loomed large over Starmer. Back in April 2021, while campaigning in Durham, Starmer was filmed drinking beer and ordering a takeaway with colleagues. At that time, indoor gatherings were prohibited due to COVID-19 lockdown rules, though there were exceptions for political campaigning. Starmer had been a vocal critic of Boris Johnson's breaches of lockdown rules, famously stating, "I believe in honor, integrity, and that those who make the rules should follow them." He repeatedly stressed that he always adhered to the rules during the pandemic, drawing a clear contrast between himself and Johnson. But this high moral stance soon became shaky ground. The reopening of the police investigation in Durham threw his leadership into disarray. New information surfaced, including revelations that Angela Rayner, the deputy leader, was present at the event, which contradicted Labour's earlier claims. A leaked memo also indicated that the meal had been pre-planned, not spontaneous as initially claimed. These inconsistencies raised questions about Labour's transparency and Starmer's integrity. Facing growing pressure, Starmer made a dramatic declaration: "If the police issue me a fine, I will do the right thing and resign." This promise was a double-edged sword. While some saw it as a demonstration of his integrity, others interpreted it as a desperate attempt to salvage his position. The potential consequences for Labour were significant. If Starmer was fined and resigned, it would throw the party into chaos just as they were trying to gain ground against the weakened Conservatives. The irony of Starmer possibly being brought down by the same type of scandal he had harshly criticized wasn't lost on political observers. Keir Starmer's leadership of Labour has been marked by a series of mistakes and controversies. His managerial approach, once seen as a strength, has left many voters feeling alienated. The beergate scandal further eroded his credibility, especially after his severe criticism of Boris Johnson's rule-breaking during lockdown. These issues have contributed to a major decline in both Labour's poll standing and Starmer's personal approval. Meanwhile, the UK economy continues to struggle. Inflation is eating away at people's wages, businesses are struggling under heavy taxes, and consumer spending is slowing. Small and medium-sized enterprises have been particularly hard hit, with many business owners forced to choose between paying taxes and keeping their businesses alive. Labour under Starmer seems unable to offer effective solutions to these urgent economic challenges. With the threat of a recession looming, the question remains, can Starmer turn things around, or is Labour on course for another crushing defeat? And what does this mean for the future of British politics? The answers to these questions could reshape the political landscape for years to come.